Awesome. Welcome, everybody. We're here. We've gathered. This is so wonderful and exciting because it's a totally different kind of call than, let's say, coaches at the leading edge sort of call, or any kind of webinar thing that I've done, or any kind of led scenario where I'm the expert and y'all are here to hear me talking from the top of the mountain about something useful for you. And instead, I am a fellow learner and enthusiast, along with everybody in the room, kind of gathering us all together around something that we're all interested in to learn from each other, um, and get ideas and spark interest and see, what we can take from it all together and what we can create all together, um, because we really, really care about something. So in the units in the Light the Grid Facebook group, if you haven't found it yet, and this is for everyone watching the recording also, um, there's a units section in Facebook groups, um, a lot of them. And then there are different kind of categories of content in there. And one of them, I think the one at the very bottom, the latest one I've added, is wisdom calls. And so far we have one on group coaching. So if you're curious on coaches who coach groups and their thoughts on these things and how to do it better, and the goods and the bads and the pros and cons and all the stuff, um, there's stuff in there on group coaching. There's another one on there on coaching in the time of COVID that I did in March or April of last year. Some of you may have been on that one. What's happening when it was just starting? What's going to happen to our industry? How do we pivot? Those were the conversations back then. Hi, Janan. Um, and so this is our third one, I think, which is about art and coaching. And the reason it's happening is because Facebook, the terrible Facebook showed me an ad sometime in June, maybe, for this kit I might want to buy with alcohol links. And at the time I was, we're all in quarantine and isolation, and we all need to find ways to kind of get into that meditative zone and have positive experiences not in front of a screen while at home and not going anywhere. And so puzzles became like a huge thing this year. Games of all sorts have been a huge thing this year for people who live with people they can play board games with. Anyway, so I was baking. Oh my God, baking. Totally. Bread. Bread became a thing. So I was sort of trying to do puzzles, but where I was didn't have a lot of light, and the puzzles I was able to get my hands on were not that inspiring. I did get some. But what I felt like I needed was color. You've all followed me in Light the Grid for a while, I'm assuming, and so the whole tarot card situation, which has been ongoing now for a couple of years. And yes, there's the whole spirituality and coaching. That's a whole another section. But I think also the reason I own, at some point now, I've given a lot away, I owned at least 100 decks of tarot cards, was the art, right? Was the genuine interest in how do different people represent, from their own spirit, their own soul, and their own creativity, similar archetypal human experiences, right? Death and love and heartbreak and joy and friendship and money and all that stuff, right? I loved the art. So I wanted color and puzzles, and this Facebook ad happened with the alcohol links, and I ordered this kit. It's like, oh, I can't draw. Like, I've never been able to draw. I wouldn't even do stick figures, because I would be embarrassed that I can't draw. I'm not one of those people. And they cannot draw. Still can't draw. And, but alcohol, it looks kind of like, you don't have to be able to draw with this. You just get to put color on paper. Just throw color on a page, which is what all I was looking at, was some simple, easy way that could cover up the fact that I have no technique or technical skill of any sort. And I could just immerse myself in colors. So I got the kit, and then the kit never came. Never even got the kit. But I got on YouTube looking up how to do that, getting ready for when the kit came so I could play with colors, really was what I wanted. And learned kind of the basics and ordered all the materials myself from Amazon and started posting every day on Instagram and Facebook. So this is, relevant for us all because we're coaches. One thing we could talk about today. So I'm going to just throw a lot of things out into the room from my experience, and you may want to just note down what interests you and where you want it, because I'm going to open it up, and then we'll take it. You guys will take it where we want to take it, have a conversation. So one of the things was I started posting every day from that place of, I don't know what I'm doing, right? And it's really easy. That's one of my favorite places to be. I kind of don't want to leave that place. And I change up my media and I change mediums that I'm using. And I just change things all the time, partly for lots of reasons. But one of the reasons is I get to stay a beginner, which for me and my body and soul and spirit feels a lot safer and a lot freer, because no one expects anything. I don't expect anything. No, like I could just fuck it up. Doesn't matter. There's zero attachment. It's just like, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Spaghetti at the wall. And so there's a lot of that like coming to art from that place is, I find, really, really great. So posting on Facebook as a beginner felt easy. So you know how they talk about show your work? Because we all have to be visible. We all have to be visible. In case you didn't know, you're letting clients, people need to find you, all that stuff. Where do I find clients? Everything's on social media now because of the pandemic. Show your work, right? So if you have a project or if you have a hobby or something that you do, it's really, really amazing, especially if you could take pictures of it, because you could share it and you can be present in people's feeds. And also it helps with the algorithms, because if people like your stuff, more people like your other stuff, relevant content. So there's a double thing in there. Hey, Bet, would you be able to mute yourself? Or I'll mute you. There we go. So I started showing it with my double reasons. And turns out people had a very strong positive reaction, which was surprising and exciting. And I played with colors a bunch. And after a while, I moved on from them to acrylics and charcoal and drawing and pastels and oils and everything. It was like all about everything. And it's been a really, really interesting journey. In that at first I noticed pleasure, just the pleasure of colors, and working with a medium that just did everything for me. And the real benefits to my mental health, right? So now we're talking about art and coaching, and being able to have a dopamine inducing outlet that isn't TV while in quarantine. But also something that was like a game, or that was like a big exploration. I wonder what happens when this and this happen, right? Like when we learn and we're creating new brain maps and stuff, we just feel good. It just really feels really good. One of the earliest lessons I learned was that trying to control what I was doing was a disaster, because I can't draw. So I'm not trained. I don't have the skill set where it's like, draw this, and if the point is to make an accurate representation of this, I'm fucked, right? This is my experience. However, I could feel the warmth of the cup in my hand and the way the colors hit my eye, and I'm noticing the contrast with the lid and this, and I kind of like this shape, and I know the feeling that coffee gives me when I drink it and what it's like to have in my hand. So what is it like to represent that? So as long as I stuck to kind of insinuating an idea, or, this is a coffee, I guess I'll put brown in it, like inspired by, it was all good, because it allowed for just so much exploration and so much of this experience of, in a sense, communicating with your art, your painting, right? So you're not doing it to the painting. It's kind of like, here's the thing, and then you're letting it talk back at you and be like, well, I want a little bit more color over here. It's a interesting relationship that you have with whatever is evolving, in a way where one can have, there's different ways to do art. I'm just talking about what I've discovered in the whole 3 months that I've been doing this. But it's a relationship with what's going on. And as you do things and as you make mistakes, both the kinds that kind of fuck it up and the kinds that make it so much better than you ever could have done it on purpose, and you don't know how you're going to do that again. Um, you just allow yourself to keep going. And that I find is a really interesting metaphor to how we relate to goal setting. You know, it's kind of like how I've built my business, kind of how I do anything in life. It's kind of like, I kind of want to go that way. I know like the first step, maybe the second step in that direction, you know, it's going to look like a cup and there's going to be some brown in it. I don't know after that. And you don't have to know after that. So that ease, you know, of letting go of control is a real, I'm finding art to be a really cool tool to practice that again and again and again. We'll end up with exercises. So there are a couple exercises about that I've learned about that are kind of really interesting. In terms of connection, another thing I've noticed is that obviously connection with the unconscious mind. So as coaches, that's something that we're looking to work with, right? We're looking to understand both our own and our clients, and then look to be making shifts and changes and work with that part of the mind. And if I get a nosebleed, it's totally fine. I get nosebleeds. And when I was posting the first thing with the unconscious mind that I noticed was when I was posting the alcohol link every day, they were all very different from each other. And people started commenting, lots and lots of people. And they'd all comment with what they saw in them because they're very abstract images. I see a ballerina. I see the sun setting. I see the la 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 la. You know, I see an angry woman in the corner. I see, you know, a bird. And it was like interpreting dreams or something. There was such a Rorschach effect with people. I was like, wow, I could create my own Rorschach card deck and just use that as a diagnostic with clients in sessions. What do you see? Because everyone sees a different thing, which tells you a lot about, or gives you a little bit of access into that person's unconscious mind. Me as the artist, I'd see what I saw. Sometimes what I'd see changes, and sometimes I wouldn't see anything at all until like 2 days later, and then it was the most obvious thing in the world, and I didn't even notice that I did it until 2 days later. And I was reading in one of these art therapy, I got like 7 art therapy books. Like, I need to learn about all this. One person was saying, it's like, it keeps talking to you. Like, you keep seeing things later. You know, it doesn't necessarily give it all up immediately. Have any of you seen the post I did about watching Jeff Koons not talk about himself?
Yes.
There's this really famous artist, Jeff Koons, like of the contemporary artists right now. He's like the top of, he's just the guy that now is the top of the thing, and his stuff sells for tens, hundreds, I don't know, of millions of dollars. And I saw a documentary that he was in, and it was like, oh, this guy's like a brander. He's just a marketer. He did not embody what an artist is to me. But that same day, I was saying to my boyfriend, man, I wish, you know, the Masterclass series. They have like Gordon Ramsay, and the first one they ever had was Kevin Spacey. But they have like all sorts of people. I've learned so much great stuff. I've learned how to garden. Those of you who saw me have a gardening stint this summer, it was all I learned at all in Masterclass. Like, they're so good. And so the next day, it's like, oh, we have an artist. They never had a visual artist. And it was so exciting. Yay, Masterclass. And then it was Jeff Koons. So, okay, it was Jeff Koons. So I checked it out. I have this huge, I got myself this huge thing of charcoal, sketch pad for charcoal. And I sit on my couch at night sometimes and I watch TV and I just sort of let my hand do whatever it does. And I put this Jeff Koons thing on. And I was not paying attention to what my hands was doing. So automatic drawing, or, you know, like doodling without thinking, you know, just a lot of movement with the body and marks on a paper without thinking. It's really just access in here. It's so cool. It's like you're talking to another part of yourself that isn't your cognitive mind. It's so cool. Anyway, hold on. cool spiritual artists do that, right? That automatic kind of drawing and painting, writing. And I was watching the master class, and I couldn't really I wasn't getting anything. I really wanted to. I was going to give the man a second chance. Because who am I, right? He's this big famous guy. And he would there'd be the unit on color, and he'd say two sentences on color. Color is la 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 la. You should la 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 with color. Let me tell you about, and then 20 minutes of his work, him talking about his paintings. And not about color or about you learning anything. So I just started skipping through and not paying attention. I just was phasing him out while I was phasing out what I was doing with the art. And by the time I looked at the art and what I had done, it was a man's face. I can't draw things, so include especially people and faces. It was a face. And I had written the words because it looked like there had been a word bubble, this, that, just sort of talking, while I was not watching, because I wasn't really paying attention, to Jeff Koons talk about himself. So the experience that I was having translated into the art that I was creating without me realizing what I was putting on the paper, right? It was really, really trippy. It was such a clear example of that. So then, how do we use that? If we really do have that much access, we can access the unconscious processes, the deeper inner truths and knowings as a discovery process. How do we do that with our clients? That's so exciting. So I started to send my apprentices, I sent all my apprentices big charcoal pads and charcoal, and started just draw, make art, do the thing. And every now and then they'll send me look what I did, to just begin this getting out of your head and getting into your body in a way, to just make marks on paper, right? And of all of the things that, along the way of learning about this, one of them, for example, to practice and work with, is how much judgment we have about ourselves. So much, I can't draw. So, my experience up until now with art was, I'm trying to draw a flower. It doesn't look like what I want it to look like. And then I beat myself up, and I just throw it in the garbage, and feel a little bit actually uncomfortable in my body looking at this thing that I don't like that I made. That does not look like the flower that I was trying to make. So how to relate to what's happening with the judgment that's coming up, how to relate with what's happening on paper, without being crazy about control. All I've been doing is abstract expressionism, or you want to call it. So I'm not trying to draw a thing that looks like a thing. That's a whole other, I don't know anything about that. I'm sure there's a lot of lessons in that too. I'm just talking about expression. How do you not try and control it and let go of that? I have a really, one of my best friends is an artist who I lived with for many years. And only now we're able to have conversations that I could never have had with her before. And she told me about a couple exercises that some of her art teachers, so she's when I did my painting school in Italy, there was a teacher who would go around and ask you what your favorite part of your painting was when you're in class. And then you would tell them what your favorite part was. I was that's my favorite part. It's so cool because blah, blah, blah. And then he'd say, paint over it. There's another sort of art instruction class that I, heard. It's you draw, you do the thing, and then you rip it up. You do the art, and then you rip it up. So the built-in impermanence is there. So you can't be that precious about it. You just let it out. It's going to be gone anyway. Right. So something else lets go. There's some kind of editor that's trying to do something, isn't irrelevant anymore. And there's some kind of freedom in there. There's another art class he's trying to get me into at an online thing in March, at his art school in New York, that one of the sessions is 2 hours long. It's 100 paintings drawings in 2 hours. It's fast. Right? It's you just get out of your way and let this expression out. So it feels like this really interesting move towards freedom and exploration. And as I've been doing that, especially when I moved away from the alcohol inks to the other mediums, um, this I didn't realize, and I've done all the fuck. I've been in the sex cult. I've done all the ayahuasca. I did all the vision quests. I've been on searches, like a lot of deep searches, like if you had said to me, I do lots of trance and hypnosis stuff with my teachers. If you had said to me, there's so much more exploration you can do about yourself, right? Be like, nah, really, I've been there and done that. Really, everything. Yeah, there's nothing, no stone left unturned. Turns out there's so much that I am a baby at discovering what's in there with the access point of this art situation. And there are moments where it flows and there are these states. Another thing with the clients, helping your clients get into flow states. This has been an incredible tool to kind of get into those states, or you're out, the movie Soul talks about the zone, to just get out of you're gone. You're not there anymore. You're in this other place when it clicks, right? It's also really great tool or modality or whatever to feel your blocks, like when the channel is closed and there's just nothing, like when writers get writer's block. What is that? That's an interesting exploration. And so as I was discovering what was in there and what wanted to come out on paper, there was a whole month where I'm like, I'm trying to draw pretty flowers, right? There's this kind of sense of myself and my identity that's very feminine and very much about the light and the lighthouse, right? Like my personality and my beingness on video that you've all seen in Light the Grid. It's not a lie. I'm not doing a persona. It's a real part of who I am. So I'm like, my paintings are going to be, this is the brightest one I've done. Like, I'm very excited about this because it's like happy. Everything else I've been doing has been so fucking dark, man. Like it goes where it goes, and then it's like, black. I gotta get some black on here. Like it's just, I need the blackness. I didn't know that. Like, and the stuff just started to be ugly. Like there is nothing lovely and pretty about what I was expressing for a while. And it was like, I was writing to my artist friend, um, I don't know if I like what I'm discovering here. It got kind of scary. And it actually got like really uncomfortable, um, beginning to put on paper to express what I'm really feeling at different times of my month. Sometimes I'm feeling happy birds and flowers, but sometimes I'm really fucking not. Like there's an intensity and a thing about me that like what I want to do on the paper does not match up with my persona on Facebook. Well, not my persona, but my branding. Who is that person? And what is that risk? Right? Like this that I just did 2 days ago is really to me is an orgasm. It was like, how literal can I get with that? Like put a little pussy on there, which you can't see. There it is. Um, and I got kind of literal with that. And I was in a sex cult. I taught orgasm for years. Like that was my life purpose. There's no reason I should feel nervous about drawing a pussy on a piece of paper. But I've changed, and I was like, oh wow, it's been like decade plus since then. And now can I put that, and what will people think if they see that on Facebook when I post my picture? Right. And then there's this whole other thing about who are you doing it for? Right. So I'm posting every day on Facebook because I like my stuff being seen. I do like it. I really like it. I like the feedback. When people like it and they put the comments, I like it. And when they don't like it, it's kind of like, oh, I guess the population does this stuff won't, right? And then it's like, will it sell? And people are asking to buy my stuff now, the alcohol ink stuff especially. So now it's like, oh, what does money do to this? So then that whole lesson and learning about the creative impulse and then doing it for someone, and what happens when there's a should or an expectation to your freedom and your ability to express. So that's a whole lot of what my journey has been. And I feel like I'm touching on just the beginnings of the because of how rich that has all been, I'm touching on just the tip of the iceberg on what's possible and available here for us to use art for ourselves and also with our clients. I got these books on art therapy and I'm going through them and it doesn't feel right somehow. The stuff I'm finding in there, it's like I'm not interested. I think it's great, but it's not what I'm interested in. I'm not looking to heal deep trauma, or I'm not looking to, it's just not quite the vibe that it's not what I was thinking. It's not coaching. It's really therapy. I'm looking at, or I'm interested in, how can we use art in order to increase freedom? I was talking to somebody, Joe Barnard, yesterday about this. Increase freedom, increase expression, provide a path for self-discovery of what is there already, a way to vision new ideas, and just basically world building, right? Like an inner landscape and then an outer landscape of world building that then can help our clients to sort of have all of those insights and pieces come out into other pieces of their lives, as well as boost creativity, right? Which is that in every part of their lives, right? Creativity with every part of your business and every part of your relationships and every part of everything. So I'm going to open the floor now, and feel free to chime in with any thought you had on any of the things that I said, because that was a lot of things. And I'd love to hear if you've used art in your own business with your own clients, how you did it, any ideas you have, kind of brainstormy stuff. So the floor is open. What's coming up for you guys as you listen to my flow there? Who here does art? Let's start there. Who does art? Awesome. Who's used art with their people? With your clients, you've used art?
Yes.
All right, let's start with that. How have you used art with your clients? Let's just go there. What have you
I started with kids classes originally many years ago. I'm an educated arts teacher, fine arts teacher.
Oh, great.
And I started off with kids classes many years ago. And the funny thing is, when you said boost your creativity, that was probably 7 years ago, the first program I drafted for my adults classes.
Cool.
Because my classes were not supposed to be so technical as such, but rather about putting together a program for people to boost their creativity, to let go of limiting self-beliefs, to have eye-opening exercises. For example, the exercise you mentioned where you destroy your favorite picture, I would go exactly the opposite way. I do exercises with people where some drawing exercises, and then I let them choose the painting they're least happy with, because that's the one they can easily detach, and the detachment is key. I find that people feel free to do and playfully recreate, and all of a sudden after they have done this intervention, it becomes their new favorite. It's rather the opposite. Then I think if you destroy stuff, yes, that maybe for people who have experienced it a few times, then it's easier to do that. But actually with my classes, and I now regularly have adults and kids classes, the experience is it's always the one that they least feel excited about, that they're most free to explore with, and that's when the magic happens.
Cool, great, thank you for putting that in there. That's awesome. So your classes, so are they for art people or are they for coaching?
They're for both, basically. It's really focusing on people to learn how to express themselves. For kids is to keep their creative spark alive, and for adults is about reconnecting to their inner child, to their inner creator, over the years, they have become a little bit more technical because the market in Luxembourg is not huge. So I have people who repetitively book the classes. So I constantly need to come up with new content for them. So it's not that I can run the same scheme for many times. And over the years, I've experienced that it's really people learn to be more free in art with some of the exercises I teach, and through the transferable skill that you can learn in art, you learn something for your life. I had before Christmas, I had an adults group where a lady said, yes, if we apply all these things that you have taught us now to our life, that's the amazing thing. And I said, yes, bravo, that's really what it's all about. I use art as a tool to make people happier, to learn how to express themselves, and to get to their real core, basically.
That's amazing. Do you do any of this online?
Not as such, not so far. I mean, through the lockdown, I was forced to do the first experiences, and you saw at the beginning I had trouble with Zoom because I'm a hobo with Zoom. I've been using WebEx, and because we're now in a total lockdown, I need to do some classes next week online. And yes, I'm probably getting more into that now. But
tell us so we can come.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Yeah, that's I'm at the moment only prepared to do it with 6 people, but yes, okay, that is the big learning curve for me. The art and using art as a tool and improving people's life and the expression, that's easy for me. The whole technical part is where they go, oh God.
I gathered, so my apprentices that I have currently, I call them my squad, or the squad.
Yeah.
They call themselves whatever. I made them call themselves the squad. And we got on a Zoom call to just art together, because now everyone has charcoal. But just to play together, it was like kind of like sip and draw kind of Friday night call. And
with how many people do you do that when you zip and call? How many people do you
have?
Well,
I have 3 apprentices right now, so that was
okay.
Right. But I can imagine doing it with 20 people, like you just have different exercises. But one of the things that we did was like, oh, let's try this, was just draw our Zoom screen, right? Or pick one of the people and draw that, which was really interesting to see how, either with looking at the paper or not looking at the paper, right? It's like, draw this connection and these people who you see, which was really hilarious, because last week I saw another artist friend of mine who's also a coach he's a really good artist, do these incredible sketches of Zoom calls, right? Like the little squares, like portraits, like figure drawing.
Yes, cool. Yes,
but
absolutely.
Like we're here together, let's draw each other. That's what we're looking at. Great, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing.
Welcome.
Anyone else? Who else? I mean, y'all put your hands up. What else are you doing? Agatha.
Well, something just came to my mind when you were talking about drawing each other. I had this great exercise when we were drawing ourselves without looking at the paper. We were looking only at ourselves, and totally amazing things came up. And then the discussion started, what we actually have there, what we feel, what we see. And we discovered really many different things that we never thought about that.
How were you looking at, were you looking in a mirror? Were you looking on a
No, that was actually a group class, and we were on Zoom.
You're on Zoom.
We were pinning a person.
Okay.
And we were looking at each other, and we were drawing what we see.
Oh, interesting.
So it was very wonderful exercise, and I totally introduced that to my clients as well. What I do mostly, I do not paint yet, but I doodle.
Yay!
And doodling
is a great start.
Actually, I started from that, and this brings a lot of creativity, and the clients kind of who are not who don't feel comfortable with art because they cannot paint, they cannot draw, they can start from doodling.
Yes.
And this is a wonderful beginning. And what we do actually, I ask them to not make notes when we have coaching sessions. I ask them to doodle their
Ooh.
feelings, doodle what comes to their minds. And also it's very exploratory for them. And what brought me a lot of joy lately, when my daughter actually wrote a letter to Santa, and she asked for paints and canvas.
Oh, nice.
And we were doodling together, and now she wants to paint. So that's why I said I'm not painting yet, because that's the direction I'm actually going. It's a wonderful deep exploration of our creativity, and I totally love it. What I actually would do with clients, and what I invited them to do, is to paint, doodle, do something when they feel deep emotions, happy emotions and unhappy emotions. And after that, we meet and they show me what they created and we talk about it. Because those feelings put on paper gave them the possibility to express themselves and talk out loud what they were unable to say, right?
Totally.
So that was absolutely wonderful to see their breakthrough through the art they created.
Totally. I noticed for myself when I was like having sort of difficult emotions and dark stuff moments, and then doing the not pretty paintings, but then when they were done, I could breathe. Like I could finally exhale. Like it was like I had a breath that I was holding that I didn't even realize. And then there's this like black demon in my house that I just put on a paper, and it was like, and it's like
Yes,
my
that's
best friend. I'm so
releasing this painful energy, right?
yeah. So that's such a good point. I love that. I'm gonna totally take that along with me, to express their emotions. The
Mhm.
intense.
And what I find also very helpful, especially right now in lockdown, we are dealing with different emotions, and some of them are really hard. And really, for children, they are especially hard because their whole world is actually connecting with others, with friends, and they cannot do it. They cannot play together. So it is a wonderful way to release those emotions on the paper. And when I saw how wonderful things it done with my daughter, I immediately started to use it with my clients.
Great. That's great. Yeah, I don't have children, so I don't know. I can only imagine like that sprightly energy having to be confined.
Mm.
I also remember being a child and having a very active imagination and fantasy world. So there is a way that I was,
We
there.
can reconnect to that actually by paintings, right? Or by art in general.
Totally. Totally.
Like reconnected with our inner child, right?
Yeah. Marta.
This is so cool, you guys. I'm learning so much. I wanted to share some thoughts about my journey and what I'm finding out right now in coaching. So I went to a very traditional art school in Warsaw, Poland, where they drilled us, and I had to paint and draw for 8 hours a day, and it was nothing was ever good enough. And I had really strict teachers, and they knew the way it should be done and stuff like that. And so it was really damaging to me as a person, just in general, just never being good enough. There was other people that were better, and it just really kind of inserted itself into a way I could punish myself. And about like maybe 15 years late after that, after I finished and got my stuff out, got my degree and stopped doing art, I decided to sort of reclaim art for myself, and I put myself through I just developed this thing for myself where I would do art, do stuff every day. And as soon as I got out of the process orientation in my mind, I would have to discard it and start anew. So whenever I was out of walking the tightrope of being in the process of creation, I would have to toss it out. And so I did that for about a year. And it was just so fun. I got to really feel that I'm creating and being myself. And so what I was just thinking about, and what you guys were talking, is that we can use art in a way of working out whatever we want to be working out in our life. So our relationship to what we're creating, I wanted to be more in the process. So my way, the how of creating was being in the process. So if I want to be non-judgmental, the how of my creation is non-judgmental, and so on and so on. And I this came from what you guys were saying, and
Oh,
made
interesting.
me really happy. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really great. You could pick anything and then apply that. That's great.
And negotiate it, see how it comes out in, and then it will definitely inform you in some way. That it has to, right? We know that.
Yeah, and what I like about it is that then it's about the meta model and it's not about making art.
Right.
I think it's always when we slip down the thing of, oh, is it art, or does it look nice, or is it pretty, or do people like it? That's actually most of the time we lose something at that moment.
Right.
And what I really like about what you just described is that you're really staying in observing what it is that you're doing and resolving something that is on a meta level. And then the product is just a trace of that.
And it definitely keeps on speaking to you after, like Christina said, it does.
Yeah.
I think that is actually the access to creativity, to connect to your creativity or learning to express yourself, is to have an open-end process. Don't focus on the end result. And then you learn how to interact, to always freely engage with what's happening on the canvas, on the paper in front of you. And that's when you train that more and more often. That's when you train to have creative reactions to it, basically. And I think that is the magic to it.
Exactly.
Sorry, what?
When I said earlier, it's like it's a conversation, and I couldn't express
Absolutely.
how I
Yes.
meant that. That's exactly
Yes.
what I was talking about.
It's like even an old teacher of mine used to say, have a dialogue with your canvas, basically. Forget about all the drawings that you have added, because what we learn about art or art making in school or at university is have an idea, plan it out, execute, and as nicely technically as possible.
Right.
Bullshit. Nothing to do with art. Nothing to do with it. The real art is about how do you as an artist learn to express yourself authentically, and learn to creatively follow your own process. And I think that's so much more valid, and people are so much more happy when they do it.
Or not to express yourself, but to express what, sorry, I don't know your name, the lady who spoke earlier, Marta.
Yes,
Marta, sorry. So Sonja, what you just said, so art is not only necessarily about to express yourself, but to take something, a thought, and then to process that thought. Like you were saying, processing how to be in a process.
Right.
And then to observe that. Yeah, that's not even about self-expression. It's not even on the level of emotion necessarily. It's just, it's a thought. It's a concept. It's a process. Yeah. And then to just examine that. So it's, I think it's, you know, there's, I just wanted to add that to what you were saying, Sonja. So I don't think from my point of view, it would just be about self-expression.
Well, I
But
see it
there's many layers
from my
to that.
experience in the classes, basically, with people, how and that it comes up in the art making, but obviously or in the expressing or conversation, or however you want to name it.
Yeah, it's
I think for myself, what it sounds to me like is another way of saying being 100% present with your experience in that moment.
Yes. Who was that? I don't know.
Zia.
Zia.
Asia. Okay.
I
Yes.
want to add a sentence at the end of this, because I think that I just understood something, is that so that we can translate that emotion or that process to those that are watching. And so it acts like a language translator, right? Someone on the other side will able to decode that, right? We might not be able to put words to it, but it will carry that load with it.
Yeah. But sometimes it's not even for the other people, for their perception. It's just probably even for yourself to recognize that. Yes, I find important for people, if they want to be more creatively in the long run. I think it's also important to share what they have created. But sometimes it's people all of a sudden discover a side in themselves, as Christina earlier said as well. I didn't know I had that in me. Certain stuff comes out. It also comes out, for example, when I have students who I get into a flow moment and they create, and all of a sudden these beautiful things come out. And at the end of the 2 hours, they say, yes, but I didn't do it. I don't know. I can't explain it. I didn't do it. And then they can't, or they find it very difficult to accept, because they have in their head that only if they have worked hard for it, only if they, if it was done consciously and perfectly, they perceive it as their own art. So it's not only in the process that we want to express ourselves so others can read what we put out there, but it's also the own discovery, kind of.
Yeah, I would say it's like with travel and exploration. It's not the destination that is important. It's the journey.
Exactly.
That gives us the true joy of experiencing it, right? And the end product, let's call it this way, it's not so important. And
exactly,
it is something beautiful. We just can be even more happy. Right.
Exactly, and that's basically one of the things where I say, okay, you either have either you learn and then, or you win. And winning means like you go home with a nice painting, or you have learned something in the session. And I prefer that people learn something in the session and rather go home with it and can do it again. Basically, what I have to I help people to build up a creative confidence that whatever they have experienced in the class, that they can do it over and over again. And that in time enables them as well to let go of paintings at a certain stage. For example, if they know they can build it up to a certain stage with which they feel really happy and satisfied with, then they can even go a step further and try to be more taking a step out of the comfort zone. And that's when the most beautiful miracles happen, basically, when they're out of their comfort zone, because that's when really they learn that it's like somebody walking on a tightrope. You don't concentrate on what's happening there, but if you let go, something beautiful will happen. And if people learn to do that more and more often, they get better at it. They build up this kind of creative confidence.
I'd like to introduce an idea that that in the creative process, as it is a sort of so taps into the unconscious mind and so much a channel in that way from there, that in the way that the conscious mind can hold multiple truths at the same time, so too can the creative process. and they're like, one of the things that like I'm tracking like 3 people ago, remember the conversation was, you know, one of the big movements in art now that my friend who's the artist is, she just so much creates from here. And she, you know, she shows in galleries, like she's really, she teaches and she's an artist. It's just all mental. Like it's all language, it's all thoughts, it's all ideas. And that's what turns her on. And that's what she's expressing. And it's not about the feeling in her body or her emotion in that moment. It's what is intimacy, you know, or whatever. Like that's not her art. Her art's way more complicated than that. But like that's my easy, right? Like what is a book? And she's doing book, which is outside of herself, but she's really exploring book. So, you know, there's sort of language, she's all about language, you know, and how language is also a creative expressive way of the thing. So there's a kind of also ability to play the musical instrument of all of this that involves the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, the language, the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. So I just want to make sure that we don't make any of those parts wrong. Where it is about ideas and it is about process. It can be about the end result and not, right? And I think it's like we're tracking, how do we relate to any of those things, right? Can relating to the end goal, can relating to the conceptual art, the idea of something in expression, the personal expression of an emotion, the looking into our dark stuff and learning about ourselves, the place about flow, the place about, I got to do it for 8 hours a day, right? In order to be able to make the dot right? Like, can all of those places be generative and all of those places be actually just a waste of our time and not really doing the thing? I just want to put that in the room.
That's really well said. It is.
Thanks.
May I share?
Yes, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I use art as, it's just how you described, Christina. It's often, my clients have really, really strong intellectual constitutions. And so if I give them something to do, I can actually speak to them while they're drawing, and I can coach way further back in who they are.
That's like the doodling.
So, yeah.
And
so it's art as art, but not really as art. Now, depending on who they are, it may be about the image on the page, as you say, or if they have a really keen sort of meta witness observer awareness kind of thing going on, then we get to delve in with a really deep ladle into some things that have not been revealed in themselves, that are sort of beyond their conceptual understanding of themselves. But all of them are valid, and the most powerful service to any point in that for me with coaching and art or any methodology is they get to experience multiple layers of their own being simultaneously. The thing on the page happens, the thinking mind happens, there is an observing presence happening, they're getting some distance from concept, they're non-judgment, they're like literally expanding into what they are, all 3 places, right? All 3 awarenesses happening at once. And when they're done, they're kind of like, it's the coolest thing to be able to coach them, and they have no idea what they're saying because they're thinking about what they're drawing, and they're saying the most profound shit. And I'm like, hey, who was that? Who was speaking? And the picture looks good. So
I find them.
I do record them.
Yeah.
And or I'll say stop, drop your crayon or whatever it is, and it's like, what did you just say? Well, I just said so and so and so and so. Okay, well, let's take a minute. Who said that? I did. But what were you doing? I was drawing a tree. And they go, you know, it's like, You know, it's the exploded diagram of, and they get to witness all of that. And it's a real tap into something incredibly powerful.
Mhm.
Like what drives all of this in my being, instead of being focused on
Mhm.
my dialoguing self inside all the time.
That
What
is really,
tools do you give them?
yeah.
Sorry?
What practical tools, like pens, pencils, paint?
Yeah,
What do you use?
it depends. Like, I've had an artist client, so she wanted watercolors, and then I've used oil pastel. I can mix oil paints. I have tons of acrylics and all of that stuff. I can do all. Sometimes it's
Okay.
charcoal, sometimes it's pencil. But the great thing is to get them moving and then start to speak to them from that layer that I coach from, which is also art. And you get to go in through a side door, and it's fucking brilliant what we get to
Right.
experience as all of that's happening.
Mhm. Do you ever doodle while you're coaching?
All the time. I do all kinds of crazy shit. I write with my right hand. I write with my left hand. Anything to like uncompress myself, Christina.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Where I'm not all pushed out into Craig.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's an interesting. What if we all, before our next coaching sessions, just like sat there for 30 seconds and wrote with our other hand before we started?
I do it every day, and I
Really?
have yeah. I just erased it. I mean, it's got, and that's the most compelling thing about it. It's like a well-used tool
Mhm.
will reveal that portion you call subconscious. I call latent consciousness.
Mhm.
People are like, I had no idea that I thought that. I had no idea that I felt that. My left hand slows my thinking down. Smart guy gets slowed down by his left hand, and shit comes out, and I'm like, I cannot believe it. That to me is what the art is for.
Interesting. That's great.
I
That's
have a question.
who did it? Who said that? Oh, Melinda.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So my question is a bit of a strange one. So I'm an artist and a coach, or not just now practicing artist. And I used to work with wood. And so my whole artistic exploration has always been three-dimensional. And I've never been someone for two-dimensional presentation or expression. And the other day I happened to coach a little boy, and that was unusual for me. I normally don't work with children. And that was intuitively, I brought out all my art material, whatever I found. And that was a great way to settle him into the coaching session. But then after he left, I thought, inspired by you, Christina, I thought, I should also I must give this a go again to try and do this two-dimensional expression on paper. And my whole being just went like, oh, it's like, it goes totally against my grain. I thought, this is really weird, yeah? Because I would so like to, and I see what you're doing, what everybody else is doing, and I kind of envy that. And then I started thinking about how in NLP, there's this idea of that people may have different representational systems. Some people are more visual, some are more auditory, some are more kinesthetic. And then I thought maybe this is to do with the fact that I'm maybe more of a kinesthetically orientated person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I thought maybe this is something to bear in mind, because if someone was coaching me and tried to make me express myself on paper or on a canvas, it feels like the wrong system, the wrong language. So it's maybe not so much of a question now that I'm talking about it. Maybe it's just something to consider when you're coaching people,
Have some
that,
Play-Doh also
uh,
as an option.
that they may have their own representational way, and just working on a canvas may not do it for them. You know, it's not like,
You know, Matt, Matt, we're talking about you in the recording. Ah, he just left. He's one of my apprentices. I'm going to talk. I hope you're giving me permission. I'm assuming you are. So as a part of the apprenticeship, we do supervision. So I get to see coaching sessions and then give feedback. And I was watching one of Matt's, and he was working with a dancer, like a ballerina dancer.
Mhm.
And there was just some place where she just like couldn't, whatever. And then she said, do you have a room in your house? Whatever. And for 20 minutes, he was like, okay, have the computer on, turn it around so I can't see you, but you can hear me, right?
Mhm.
And go dance for 20 minutes, put some
Yeah.
music on and go dance. And I'll be here, but we won't talk. You do the thing about whatever this thing is that's happening. And he just, it was like 20 minutes in the session when she was dancing. And my goodness, was it different when she came back.
That makes total sense to
Yeah.
me.
Fascinatingly beautiful.
Yeah,
Totally cool.
and I had a client I've been working with a client who he started to redesign his garden, and then he realized he's actually not into plants. He understood that it's more about construction, and now he's dismantling his garage and starting to build things. So I think it's probably quite important to really find if we really want to help people get their creativity into a flow in a creative medium, then it's quite important to find
Then
the
what's
right
their
kind of
medium? Right.
To not assume it's paint on canvas.
Right. Or scribbling or, yeah.
That's what I do. I've started to bring it up with each of my clients. Like, let's find a creative outlet. Like Craig had mentioned, it seems like many of my clients are very cerebral in their brain, constantly up here. And I'm trying to use creativity to bring them down a little bit into that seat of consciousness. It's one of the things that I love about the movie Soul that I'm going to talk with all of my clients about. In that no man's land where the captain of the boat is like both on land, twirling his thing, but he's in this creative zone. They talk about that zone, the basketball player, the artist, trying to get them to drop in. It's really been a fun process for a couple of my clients because they come back having kind of touched places that they don't typically touch. And I like what you were saying, Milena, about allowing them to pick their outlet. One is cooking, baking, one is art, and one really has gotten into creative writing. Just sent me like a 5-page short story the other day, which was like mind-blowing. This dude is so analytical, so about the numbers. And then to come back with this wildly creative dystopian story, like seemingly out of nowhere, that he's super excited about. It's so fun to see that open up in our clients in whatever medium we give them. And I can't wait for the playbook on how to use creativity like this in coaching, because I so see the sparks of something beautiful with it.
I have a question for you, Andy. So
Yeah.
Andy, before he was a coach, was the artistic director of the theater in Chicago, and is an actor, and is a singer, musician. And from my friends who are actors, the people who I've hung out with, who I know who are actors and who talk to me about acting class, all of the training that they go through in order to be able to access different states of being in an honest way, right, to be a good actor, is a lot like coaching exercises. There's a similarity in there. Like there's a thing about how to get out of your own way to get access to different things that you normally can't from here. I'm curious if there's some kind of parallel that you see, or exercises or something that is similar there, because acting is a craft. Like you're trying to do a specific thing, but you have to stay loose while you do it.
Totally. And it's why I say I've been coaching for like a decade, because I used to teach acting. I used to teach theater.
Right.
And there are so many similarities. It's getting out of our own way so that we can access that seat of creation.
Right.
And it's so fun of late to be able to look back at what I used to do and now what I do and see where I can like bring more to each,
Yes.
because there is that beautiful spot in the
Connection.
zone where it's very spiritual, and it's where a lot of my very analytical clients are seeing sparks. I don't know what to do with it yet. It's so new. There's no book, but it's something I'm playing with, and I'm excited to be in the
100%.
conversation. Craig, I just started working with this this executive client, and what I'm totally going to buy him art supplies for a holiday gift, and just every session just doodle, because I think that is going to change the game.
Totally, you get to slip in behind all of that fortitude that he's got built.
Because several of my clients, they just have that wall of, even when we're in conversation, of analyzing what they're saying and is it the right thing, and this is how we do things. Anything we can snap them out of that to really just drop into a deeper conversation, I'm excited to play with that. I appreciate that.
Amen, brother. My songwriting, I was a professional songwriter for 10 years, and it's the same thing. If you spend all day judging, you're never going to write a song. You can't do it. You have to shut off the editor and you got to dip down, write the ugly shit, write the awesome shit, write the shitty song. It's not about making it good. It's about not judging it. So as much as you can reveal, as much as you can get on the plate, then you can bring in, once you get some confidence, it's like you don't need it to be good anymore, then it gets really fucking great.
Yeah, right. When you don't need it, you don't care anymore. When you hit the
That's exactly.
place, that's the good
And
stuff.
and you begin to realize that through this, that this identity it's fabricated. The whole thing is a fabrication, and that the real person is behind all this Craigness that I have. And I find that fascinating about anything creative, because it's that same creation that makes the person, the personality. It's that same force. I mean, it's like coaching 1000, right?
That's great.
Good shit.
I like how, like, Sonia, what you're doing is taking like that very first baby step. Like, it's so, for me, like, it's so very delicate now, not as much, but like even a month ago, so delicate. Like, it's just like I'm just touching it. I don't know if it's real. It's a little bit tenuous. That what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. All of the thoughts and all the possibility to just stop because whatever is right there. So walking people in and opening that door just gently, and nurturing that until sort of the fire picks up. I love how you're doing that, especially in group settings with a lot of people in like a more purely art.
I've been doing that. I'm luckily here in Luxembourg in the position to have a very international group. And that's another thing where art, whether it's art or the creative process, but Luxembourg is a very international little hub. And sometimes I have these really diverse groups. It could be mothers that have been at home for many years. It could be lawyers that come to relax after a stressful day at any of the European institutions, or at the big American retail companies headquarters and stuff like that. And people come together and they all meet up and express themselves. And then also we have this moment of sharing our experiences, and everybody brings in their own experience, and that makes it as a group so much richer as well, because then we get a lot more insights than just everybody doing their own thing at home, or just me working with one individual, which can be also fun and wonderful. But I think that is the beauty in working in groups where you open the doors for people to as well exchange ideas and open up about it and have vital new insights, basically.
Right. Yeah. So that group scenario, and also these very personal one-on-one
Mm.
contexts that we can work in, I think are both. And then how much coaching and then how much arting.
Yeah, well, for me, it's arting. I come from the arting session,
Right.
and for me, the coaching is only a transferable skill out of that comes out of the art.
The arting.
So therefore, I come from Milena. So she asked me to join in tonight's discussion.
I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much.
Thank you that I could join in, because for me it's obviously interesting as well
Yeah,
to
and
hear
I think
everybody else's
think
input.
there's something really essential that is absolutely identical in coaching a person around issues in their life and coaching a person around developing their own artistic expression. And both, I think it's almost like, I mean, in coaching, it's like, I always think of peeling back layers to bring out what, and the answers, as we know, are all within the client already. It's not like we create them or anything. It's just about facilitating that process. And it's the same, I think, when you facilitate somebody's process in art. I used to teach art students, and that's why, Christina, it's sort of, when I saw you on Facebook posting books about how-to books, and these, when you said, oh, I've bought lots of books about art therapy, I thought, oh my God, no, because you've already got it all. You're already doing it. You're doing it. None of these books can teach you anything. The only teachers that I think at that point we can find where you are is, let's go into museums, let's look at what other artists have done.
Mhm.
But you will not, these art therapy books, a lot of them, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot brings you back to not trusting in that which comes out is it. Exactly, the thing that comes out is it. Yeah, and when then that insecurity comes in, and you said in one of our conversations, oh, I feel like maybe I would like some guidance. And the thing is exactly to bear that not knowing, to bear that uncertainty, to bear the empty canvas, to bear the absolute, yeah, that's it. Go with that, stay with that, see what happens at that moment when you just go through that.
I was like, Milena, give me something to do. Vita, she's an incredible artist. If you guys, I couldn't believe it. You guys have to see her website. Can you put your website in the chat?
Yeah, I can do that.
Oh my God.
not so sure
She
about
says she
incredible,
does
but-
three-dimensional stuff. It was like, what? No.
You
Yeah, but
grow
I'm-
into that.
Someone I know does
I'm
that?
really-
You
as
grow
an
into
art
that.
teacher, I'm a
that
total believer in not in I think you can approach the same thing from two sides, and that's where Sonja and I have we arrive at the same point, I think, from two different sides.
Mhm.
You can give people exercises to work through all that judgment and to get to that really pure place,
Mhm.
and you can equally do exactly
He's
the
like,
other way
nah,
around
fly, go.
and say it's already within you, and everything that I could give you would just do you know what I mean?
But some people, from my experiences, they can't fly. So you need to open their eyes
Absolutely.
with some experiences so that they understand, because it's one way to say, yes, you have it all in you, go for it. But we have been through years of limiting self-beliefs, where we have been through a school system where we have been trained to work art totally in a different way, and we don't dare to trust our own judgment and our own feeling. And it's only through practical exercises sometimes people rediscover actually how much more free they are, and that's when it eventually clicks, and that's where art can be so transformative. But I think I always saw a hand sign by Chanan. She never managed to get a word in. Sorry.
Yeah. When you posted, Christina, on our group, what inspired me is how I can use art for my coaching. As Craig mentioned, it's much easier. It gets much easier to coach that person much deeper. So the training I have been in the recent months about positive intelligence says that as we have two parts of brain, the left brain, the survival brain, where our saboteurs, our judges, our self-judgments, our not enoughness lives. And we have the right brain, where we have our sage, our wisdom, but also our creativity inspiration, how we understand people, or creating a connection. So in order to shift from left brain to right brain, where we can do our stuff best, you need to do something with one of your five senses. So art can be used in our sessions rather than doing kind of a guided meditation. And it doesn't have to be a painting. Even like as a sculptor, they can find their children's stuff, or find Play-Doh is very available everywhere. And let him or her to play during the session with that stuff and create whatever he wants. Because our end product is not the art piece. Our end product is a nice, effective coaching session that person leaves there with expressing their feelings, expressing or finding their wisdom and the solution maybe. For example, nowadays I'm working with executives in the corporate life. So they are getting into my coaching session, just finished another meeting and they have another meeting after mine. So they have a back-to-back meetings. And in that 60 minutes, I need to get them out of that to-dos or deliverables, the project presentations or whatever, to a place where they can dream. So it might facilitate them to do it in a few minutes time, rather than, okay, let's dream, or let's move out of, let's forget about other things. And one thing I have seen or experienced, there is a Lego Serious Play facilitators. I don't know whether you have heard of it. The Lego company, has created kind of a tool. I'm not so proficient about maybe explaining, but they are using those Lego pieces for project management, for coaching, for others. And the first demonstration they do is they just give you 8 or 9 pieces to make you a duck. And everyone makes their duck on its own style. And none of them is wrong. So that's why when the client is in front of you, he doesn't have a guidance or a rule, as Milana and Sonia, they are trying to unlearn what they have learned from the art schools they have studied, rather than now leaving that person into a much freer place that they can move to a much positive, much creative side. So this just reminded me that we can use that tool, as you have mentioned.
Lego what?
Lego Serious Play.
Serious Play. Okay, that's a funny
name.
Okay.
That's amazing.
It doesn't have to, you know, they have a set of their Legos, and they use them in vision creation of big corporate companies and whatever. But in any case, any of our clients can access to a Lego pack, the basic one. And you can even if they say that I cannot draw, I cannot make a sculpture or Play-Doh. Okay, do you have Lego at your home? Just bring it there and build something. And the experience I had was they asked us to create our dream place that we would like to live in 5 years' time. So for myself, I created a house which has a deck just near the river or water, where I'm literally living right now. So it was just exciting me. So it made me so excited about my dreams. So this is something we would be looking for at the end of the session. Then the client will be much relieved. Oh, okay, I don't need to do a masterpiece. That's only for me. And as Christina's case, it has turned out to be masterpieces, right?
Very sweet. That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, what was just said, it's kind of a connected with what I am doing, because I use kinetic sand with my clients. It's a method called sand play coaching. It's based on sand play therapy, but the method was kind of patented by a friend of mine from Poland. And you start from actually playing with the sand, right? So it brings you to a totally different state. And then you play with figurines and put whatever you want to work on in a tray with the sand, and you can go deeper with, you know, this way of
Oh, it froze.
Oh, yeah.
It brings this element of joy, right? That you are kind of playing in a way. With some clients, we do pottery. With some clients, we actually do. I actually do. I don't know whether you heard the Japanese name kintsugi, but this is you know the playfulness of creating a new piece from a broken pottery with gold, and it's, you know, a unique product that comes up, that kind of creates in my clients' minds amazing things, because it's like creating something from nothing, right? And what I loved, what Craig said before, I work with women who are living abroad. They were brought there because they wanted, like digital nomads, or they were trailing spouses, and they all kind of experience cultural shock. And when I start with them, we always draw or write with non-dominant hand to show them how actually it is uncomfortable. And from this state of being uncomfortable, the greatest breakthroughs are actually coming out. And this is something that we actually do every time we meet. They write or draw with non-dominant hand, and they are becoming better in that. And that's the way they kind of outsmart cultural shock, right? And what Elena, what Andy said about this different ways of actually incorporating our artistic ways into life, they are multitude. Actually, everything we create, it's art, right? That it can be baking, right? Something
it's creative,
done, right? Something is created. Writing is a wonderful way of expressing ourselves. So whatever is needed from the client side, right?
Can I have one short input on whether non-dominant hand, actually, if you do an exercise with people with a non-dominant hand, let them draw first something with a non-dominant hand, then let them draw something with a dominant hand. In 95% of the cases, the drawing with a non-dominant hand is 10 times cooler than the dominant hand, because with the dominant hand, our perfectionism kicks in 100%, almost all of the time. Sometimes you have people who are ambidextrous who can do it equally good with both hands. But as such, I do exercises with people where they first draw with a non-dominant hand and then have the eye-opening moment to do it with a dominant hand. And actually they see when they let go, when they actually say, I don't care about the end result, the drawing is so much better. That is actually a truly eye-opening moment.
That's great.
Yeah.
Totally. It's like a big piece of paper staring at me right now that I try to do something. It was like,
and go
together.
do something, and actually you can do something like do a self-portrait, Christina. Do a self-portrait, the first self-portrait without a mirror. You don't need a mirror. We all know how we look like in the morning when we brush our teeth. If you do it with kids, they say, yeah, I do it. When you do it with adults, they say, oh, I don't have a mirror. We all know how we look like. If you first do a drawing with your non-dominant hand and then do the same drawing again with your dominant hand, I'm almost 95% of the cases, the non-dominant hand drawing is so much better than the other one. And that is an eye-opener for letting go, because the moment you surrender to saying, what the heck, I don't need to, I do it as good as it gets. And then actually you're kicking. That's when it happens. And it's eye-opening.
Magic. Awesome. Thank you.
My battery's almost finished, so I think I might
like
drop
we're
out
kind of
any
short of
second.
time.
It keeps telling me battery's finished.
If anyone, so I'm going to post the recording of this in the group. If Milena, I'd love for people to see your work, but I'd love, if anyone else has any websites with their artwork, I'd love to just start a thread, underneath. Let's do it, but not underneath this link that I posted, the link to today's call. Sometimes people go there. Just wait till I upload the recording.
Okay.
And then under the recording, so that's what's going in the unit, we could have underneath. I'd love for you all to
That would be
share your
interesting.
work.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. And who knows, we'll see if this goes anywhere. Maybe somebody will have some kind of art workshop we can come to online.
Who knows?
Thank you. Oh, and I want to say one more thing. Something that I noticed about this call that was very exciting to me to notice, more than the other two calls that I did, is how passionate everybody is about this. Like there is energy in the space right now, even though we're on Zoom, where it's electric. This was super cool. Like, we're very onto something. This is important because
I think so.
we really care. We really feel it. So I definitely want more.
Definitely.
Absolutely. It was awesome.
Yeah,
very creative.
Very thought-provoking.
Yeah, thank you.
I have lots of ideas.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's
Can I just catch this one thing that was said just like 2 minutes ago when the sound was mentioned? I think the play idea is really important. The idea to get into a state of play. And ideally, I mean, the most magical moment is when you forget yourself and you're really back to being literally like a child. You forget time and space. And the intention is no longer intentional.
Yes.
I think play is such a key word.
Totally.
For everything, really.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, my heart is so full. I'm so happy. All my clients today are going to get a really happy Christina.
Thank you so much for facilitating, Christina.
Totally. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you so
everybody.
much. Thank you for organizing that. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. Such a nice party to close the year.
It was lovely.
See you, Janan.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.